Hello, everyone, and welcome to the member only part of our part four Below the Plate series. Wednesday, we went live and talked about the third eye and the crown. And today, I want to deep into that conversation and give you a little bit more actual food, a tangibility, ways that you can hold it for yourself and explore it for yourself. So, Wednesday, we mapped it out. Definitely go check it out if you haven't watched it yet. Today, we personalize it for you. And so we're exploring with the third eye and the crown the territory of food rules, of your relationship with what you know about food, with what you know about your body, what you believe about your body, what you believe about food. And we explore, like, what would it feel like to eat from a place of clarity, and rather than maybe like inherited story, inherited beliefs. And so this is where we're really getting into like spiritual territory, into that connection with unity consciousness, which is outside of our physical body. But I really want to be clear that we aren't adding like more spiritual framework. We aren't adding spiritual framework onto your eating. What we're really getting into here is stripping away what was never yours to begin with, right? We're looking at discovering what is maybe underneath that is holding you in a limiting belief, that is holding you in a perception of reality that is creating an illusion and preventing you from deepening your own wisdom that comes from integrating knowledge with your own lived experience. So, with the lower three chakras that we explored in Below the Plate part one, we were asking, like, what am I hungry for? What will nourish the matter of my being, the existence that I hold in this tangible body? With the heart, it was like, what pattern am I nourishing around love, around circulation? And with the throat, it was around nourishment of expression. And with the third eye and the crown, we're looking at, what am I believing about food, about my body, about how I nourish myself? What do I know about it? And how do I broaden my mind? How do I open my mind to other possibilities, other ways of being that my body might be calling for? So there's two channels of information that, one is kind of like, what rules we're exploring, like, where are the rigidities, where are the fears, um, and that might be running how you eat, that might be running how you relate to your body, and where did they come from? And then the second is, where are you maybe checking out? Where might you be dissociating from the body, floating above the body into pure concept, into data, into spiritual framework, s- or even like intellectual control rather than actual felt nourishment? So, the skill we're building today is learning to distinguish your own body's intelligence from the overlay of story, of rules, and of inherited belief. So, let's jump into the third eye. The third eye foods are things that are rich in bioactive compounds, things that are rich in kind of those nutrients that are really important, but they aren't necessarily like one of they're kind of like the high level, version of a nutrient. So like the omega 3s, for example, they are a fat, right? We could associate them with the sacral, but they're kind of this like specialty fat. And so they're really critical for us. They're critical for our brain, they're critical for anti-inflammatory pathways. So that's what I mean by this, like, kinda specialty nutrients, the bioactive compounds that are extra. And th the other thing, they're found in, like, really colorful foods, right? So you have the vitamins and the minerals, and then you have all of the bioflavonoids. You have the, polyphenols, right? These are supportive to the third eye. And also things like that support intuition. So things that might enhance our visioning, like cacao, maybe even chocolate, um, and things that support sight, right? So carrots, um, and yeah, just anything that is a brain support. Walnuts look like a brain. That's just a side note. Foods that resemble a part of the body usually support that. That's just a cool nutrition fact. But the deeper third eye practice with food isn't really about what we're eating. Yes, this is what resonates with the third eye. These are the foods that are considered supportive to the third eye. But really, what we're exploring in nourishing the third eye is understanding how clearly you can see your connection with food, your beliefs around food, how you perceive of your body, how you perceive of food itself. And what do you actually perceive versus what is filtered through a specific lens, a specific story? So, can you hold a broader perspective, or are there certain aspects of food or body that you look through a narrowed lens because of an aspect of your history, an inherited story, whatever it might be? So, inherited food rules, um, sometimes they're things that we've never questioned. There might be certain things that we have, naturally grown into questioning for ourselves, but sometimes they're so, like, deeply embedded that we just don't question them. It's just kinda like how we do this is how my family did it. This is just what I do, right, with this food or with this in terms of this way of eating. So, it's like eating a certain way because your parent did, or because a diet told you to do it and you've just kinda stuck with it, or because you decided at 19 that this is who you were and this is how you were gonna do it, and you've never explored it again. Um, there might be like third eye issues are signaled through denial patterns. So when I see someone whose body is like giving them very clear signals, right? Fatigue, bloating, cravings, aversions, but the mind is genuinely just like not interested in doing something about it. Um, and then another one, the rut that feels impossible to imagine your way out of, not because change is hard, not because you don't want to, right? But because the third eye is not it's not it can't like access a different way yet. It can't open a possibility. It hasn't broadened because you need a little bit more flow in that third eye. And just the opposite, and these are just kind of like a little review from Wednesday. When there's an overactive third eye, the food becomes a projection screen for fear, for purity obsession, for magical thinking about food. Um, like where you begin to perform an idea instead of tapping into if it's really nourishing or not. So the rules that might exist get really loud, get really like attached to it. The framework overtakes the felt experience. And it could be seen as like every meal kind of becoming this like test of how well you are um, able to do, able to like feed yourself based on what you know. So, what to reflect on here with the third eye is, and these are really good journaling prompts. What food belief are you carrying that you haven't examined? What are your food rules? Where did it come from? Does it still need to belong to you? So I have a food rules exercise that I will put in the comments here, and it can be, you can make it as tedious or not as you want, but essentially it has you write down the food rules you've identified and then explore them and maybe reframe them. Some food rules can be helpful, like turning off turning off devices to sit down and eat dinner with your family, right? Like this is a rule that most people would agree like feels pretty good for the body and is supportive. That's a good, like a healthy food rule. But there are other rules that maybe aren't supporting you in the way that you really want to be supported. And so it's a helpful exercise to take you through them and just begin to get conscious of them, because a lot of times there's stuff that we're doing with food that just doesn't even register as something as it being done, let alone if we need to change it or not. Um, so I'll put that in this post. And then in terms of the crown's kind of questioning like, are you here to eat or to transcend? Are you here to invite the access, what you're accessing through your crown into your body? Or are you wanting to dissociate from the body, leave the body? So the crown center is the one place in the chakra system where the food conversation becomes less about specific foods and more about like the quality of consciousness with the food. Um, and you're the quality of consciousness that you're eating with. The element is just light. You know, you think of like pure sunlight. So it's really like how are you being nourished beyond the tangible things that nourish you? It's literally like letting your body, we all need sunshine, right? Like sitting in the sun and absorbing the sun. That is food for the crown. Um Anything that's like ceremonial, you know, if you've ever participated in like a tea ceremony or like I'm thinking of this ceremony I was part of in Bali where they fed us fruit at the end. Like these are going to be when you're in that spiritual, when you're in like a spiritual container, a spiritual space, you will be feeding um not just your body, but like using the food kind of to bring that spirituality down into form. And so when you don't have a lot of energy in the crown, it as I stated on Wednesday, just a little reminder, it creates more energy in the physical. And so that can lead to having more heaviness in the body. It can lead to um, being a little bit like more obsessive with food because you have more of those physical centers getting more of the voice, right? And so, as I mentioned, it can lead to like eating as a distraction or eating um, to like as like a kind of a form of just nourishing that heavier energy that's calling to you. That just has a little bit more of a voice at the table, and it could lead to like binge eating, like just kind of like reaching for more and more and more and more and not being able to fill up. There could be like this obsessive body fixation, maybe rigid calorie counting, over indexing on controlling exercise. And just the opposite with the excessive crown, that's where people kind of pull up and out of their body. Like I said, like maybe really into fasting, into ways to avoid eating, to over intellectualizing through data and analysis and calculations for how to eat. So with the crown, what you're wanting to reflect on, again, here are some more good journal prompts. Where am I using my spiritual framework to avoid being a body? In what ways am I maybe like spiritually bypassing to not have to feel the food moving in and through me, to not have to deal with my digestion, to not have to stoke my fire, which is part of the digestion, right? How to connected to power. In what ways am I avoiding feeling just the physical form of my body, the sensations that come from my body? That often is part of what has created an overabundance of energy in the spiritual, or it's been someone, this can happen too. I've seen this in my practice where somebody has, they found their way out of feeling so crappy by accessing uh, something greater than themselves. But instead of integrating the whole of who they are, they just eject it out. This is great to leave the body. And that's often how that happens. So where are you using your knowledge or your spiritual framework to avoid being in the body? And where has your body been waiting for you to catch up? We often can move at a faster pace than the physical body. And that can happen with any type of pursuit, day-to-day lives, spiritual pursuits, career pursuits. And and so where have you been, where has your body been waiting to catch up? And just exploring that. Obviously, no right or wrong answer, right? It's just information. It's important information to explore. So I want to walk you through the food rules practice that I mentioned. Basically, you name a rule. So before you eat, when you're thinking about putting food together, if you're thinking about your body, how you are, like say you want to have dessert. Oh, and you might think, this is an example I've seen before. I need to get out and do my 3-mile run because I'm gonna eat dessert tonight. Right? So that's a rule. I must earn my dessert. I must move my body in order to get dessert. So it can be about food, it can be about exercise. It's the way you're relating to your body and feeding your body, food or otherwise. So when you notice a rule, um, just kind of just bring a little bit of framework to it. How do you name that rule and jot it down? And then you can sit with that rule, and it might happen in that moment. You might come back to it later when you have more time. But where did that rule come from? Whose voice is that? Did it come from me? Did I hear my mother saying that over and over again? And so it became ingrained in me that I go on a run before I eat a cookie. Was it my grandma? Was it the girls in my sorority? Like, where did this rule come from that I agreed to carry within me? And naming it helps bring that, naming it and tracing it helps to bring it into your consciousness. Because, like I said, we do a lot of things that aren't in our full conscious awareness. And then you can ask, is this true for me? Does it work for me? Right? What does your body actually want? Is this a rule that feels good to me? Is it a rule that I really want to live by? And if if it does, fantastic. And if it doesn't, then dropping below the rule. What is it, listening to your body? What is it that I actually want? Independent of that rule. How could it be different? Using your third eye to open and expand to other possibilities. And and whatever wisdom or intuition or sense of right action comes to you, let it, like, write down how you could reframe that rule to hold that new information. Um, so all of this that we've been exploring with food and the chakras, food, how we eat, how I hold my body, how I nourish my body, overlap with energetics, is held in the container, plus more, of my Sacred Art of Eating. This was a course that I developed years ago and haven't run it live for a couple years, but I'm feeling really called to do that, especially on the heels of this series that I've done. And so stay tuned. There will be more information coming soon about how to become a part of this program, but I want you to know that as a member, you will get a a um a discount to join if you'd like to be a part of the Sacred Art of Eating. So this is a course that is that you can watch and be a part of it online on your own time, but there is an element of connection with the group and access to talking things through, getting support from me. So just drop a note below, send me a note if you want to be a part of this, and I'll let you know how to do it and how you can access your special member only discount. Lots of information to come soon. I'm going to be running little snippets that will lead up to it on Substack. So stay tuned for that. And just thank you so much. You all are wonderful. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you.